Hey, this is Russell Howard with Good News to Live By, and on a Tuesday morning, God is very good to us, July the 21st, and I hope that you are doing good this good morning as we began another day of Good News to Live By. We are in a great book of Philippians, chapter 2. Before we get into our lesson today of talking about offering yourself as a selfless servant, I want us to first of all encourage you to be praying for some folks. Please, if you would remember, be praying for Fred Rule in your prayers and keep him in your prayers as well. I pray that you would be with Martha. Also, in your prayers, Martha Seckel, who was in a car wreck, as well as Helen Dennison. Helen is in the hospital in Riverside, and also Martha is in a hospital in Lima, and they're doing better, but please be praying for them. Also, remember, if you would, in your prayers, Gary Rossiter, who had a heart attack last night and he's at Riverside Hospital. So please remember Gary Rossiter in your prayers as well, and as he gets better. Also, if you would remember our services on Sunday, they're at 8:15, 9:45, and 11:15, plus a service for our young families at 11:15 as well. We do encourage you to sign up for that. That just helps us out, and it's we just hope that you can come. We do plenty of social distancing for our services that make it easier for people to spread out. And then also, we want to remind you on August the 5th, Lord willing, we are going to be having an outdoor service. We got some new speaker system, and so far, everybody will be able to hear that day. And so we hope that you will be planning on that on August the 5th. Excuse me, August the 2nd. August the 2nd, not August the 5th. August the 2nd, we'll be having an outdoor worship service. And I hope that you can be a part of that. We encourage you to bring your family. I also encourage you to bring some food for your family, and we'll have a little picnic together and kind of eat together from a distance. It'll be a blessing that we can do that. As we are in Philippians chapter 2, verse 25 says, "But I think it necessary to send back to you Epaphroditus, my brother, fellow worker, and fellow soldier, who is also your messenger, whom you sent to take care of my needs." The Philippians church loved Paul so much they decided to let one of their people leave and go and to him and meet his needs. They learned he was in prison, and they sent Epaphroditus with a care package to Paul. In fact, Epaphroditus volunteered to go. He brought books, he brought good news, and best of all, he brought a companionship. When you're down and out, it's nice to have somebody that is there with you and that cares about you and is concerned about you. Epaphroditus, his name means charming or lovely. The name occurs only twice in the Bible, and it's right here in this particular book. Paul appreciated his sacrifice and enjoyed the company of this man. The two developed a very strong friendship, but then Epaphroditus got sick. When you travel in third world countries and you drink their water and drink their food and your body is not used to it, you don't have the antibodies built up for it, well, it's very likely you may get sick. And that's what happened with Epaphroditus. Epaphroditus got sick. In verse 26, it goes on, "For he longs for all of you and is distressed because you heard he was ill. Indeed, he was ill and almost died. But God had mercy on him, and not only on him only, but also on me, to spare me sorrow upon sorrow. Therefore, I am all the more eager to send him, so that when you see him again, you may be glad and you may have less anxiety. Welcome him in the Lord with great joy and honor men like him, because he almost died for the work of Christ, risking his life to make up for the help you could not give me." Paul decided to send Epaphroditus back to Philippi so they might see him again and help him with good health. He used the occasion to send a letter also to the church, instructing them to make sure to welcome Epaphroditus. He uses and acknowledge his sacrificial ministry he extended to Paul. Epaphroditus would be considered in the Bible probably a nobody. He's not somebody that stands out, and yet, he never wrote a book in the Bible. He never had a statue erected to him. There's not any famous accomplishments. However, Paul recognized him as a hero, and he was a hero for three particular reasons. He stands out. First, he was a people lover. He loved people. He longed for them, verse 26. He felt distressed, not by his own sickness, but because the Philippians were worried about him. Do you long for people? Do you long to help people? Are you concerned about people? Secondly, he was a risk taker. He was a soldier for the cross. He risked his life for the sake of the gospel, that Paul would hear the good news, that Paul could be helped out, and he would risk himself. Do you play it safe when it comes to others, or are you a risk taker? Are you willing to get out of your comfort zone and do something to help somebody else? Number three, and most important of all, he was a servant. He was a messenger. He was a pioneer. He did the work that no one else would do. Do you deny yourself for the benefit of others? Lou Gehrig, many years ago, was a first baseman for the New York Yankees. He died in June 2nd, 1941, of ALS, later on known as Lou Gehrig's disease. Horrible, horrible disease. The doctors really didn't know how to treat it, so he was in a hospital for a long time, and experimental drugs were used with different drugs, trying to find out what would possibly work. And just before he died, Lou Gehrig called his friend Bob Considine. He said, "Bob, I have great news. The boys in the lab have come up with a new serum, and they're trying it on 10 of us. It seems to be working well on 9 of the 10. Bob Considine asked, "Is it working on you, Lou?" Lou answered, "Well, no, but 9 out of 10. How do you like those odds? That's pretty good." Well, he really was joyful, because 9 out of 10 were getting better and being helped. As you look again at verse 25 to verse 30, there's sacrifice for other people, whom you sent to take care of my needs. He almost died for the work of Christ, risking his life to make up for the help you could not give me. The phrase risking his life in the language of the common people means to gamble or to bet. In other words, Epaphroditus gambled his life to come to Rome in search of Paul. The early Christians called those who risked their lives or got out of their comfort zone as parabolonia, or the riskers. Aquila and Priscilla would have been definitely members of that particular group. Paul wrote of them in Romans 16, verse 3 to verse 4. Greet Priscilla and Aquila, my fellow workers in Christ Jesus. They risked their lives for me. John the Apostle told of others who did not love their own lives so much as to shrink from death. A Sunday school teacher asked a class of youngsters one time, "What does the story of the Good Samaritan teach you?" One of the boys said that when I'm in trouble, someone help me. When we're in trouble, or we tend to think somebody should help us. Hopefully, someone will help us. But have you ever thought about helping other people when they're in trials, when they're burdens, when they're facing difficulties in their life? Epaphroditus was that kind of man. Even though he was quite ill, he was still thinking of others. I've gone to the hospital before to pray when we could go to the hospital. Unfortunately, we're not able to really to go to the hospital and visit people like we have in the past. But I've gone to visit people who were in the hospital who are quite ill, in fact, dying, and they ended up praying for me. They lifted my spirits. How Christ-like is that? We all need to be concerned about others, even in the midst of our own suffering. The shepherd we read about in the Bible is one of the greatest examples of sacrifice I love to study about. He totally gave himself to his sheep. He knew that every need, they were his life. He sacrificed for his sheep. That kind of lifestyle is a crying need for our world today. I realize that we live in a different kind of world today, and you can't necessarily just be foolish in your risk for other people. But I'm going to tell you something, folks. We need to put ourselves out. We need to call people who are hurting. We need to send cards. We need to let people know that you're not lonely. You think about all the many seniors sometimes haven't got out of the house for months. Maybe just go to the grocery store, and you know what? They don't have no personal touch, and I understand that. But you know what? We as people have got to be think less about ourselves and think more about other people. And when you think less about yourself, I'm going to tell you something. You feel better about yourself. If we just care about people, that's what Jesus did. That's what Jesus was about. Good God, good look at a passage in Second Corinthians Chronicles. Excuse me, there. Second Chronicles 16, verse 9. For the eyes of the Lord reigns throughout the earth to strengthen those whose hearts are fully committed to Him. I heard a story one time, marvelous story about a man years ago. He worked for the YMCA. He was a secretary in San Antonio, and his brother was a very wealthy brother because he was into the oil business, and that brother was a very kind man. He bought him a brand new car for his brother who worked for the YMCA. And one day he came out of his office one day to his car, and there was a little fellow rubbing the shining fender. He said, "Mister, is this your car?" He said, "Yes, son, it sure is." "Boy, that is a pretty car." The man said, "It is nice. My brother gave it to me for Christmas." As he started to get in the car, the little fellow backed up, and he said, I wish and the man waited for the words to come out, I wish I had a brother like that who would give me a car for Christmas." But the little fellow did not say that at all. He said, "Mister, I wish I could be a brother like that." The man said, "Son, where do you live? Would you like to ride in the car?" He said, "I would." He said, "I live right down the street there." He said, "Well, you go into your house and I'll drive down there and you ask your mom if you're able to ride in the car. All right? And maybe she would like to ride in the car." So he drove down to the house. As the boy ran inside the house, he said, "Mister, wait a minute. If you don't mind, I'll be right back. Just wait a minute." Thinking he'd bring out his mother, but that's not who brought out. Instead, he disappeared in the house, and a few moments later, out he came, carrying his little brother. His legs were in braces, a crippled boy. He got in the car and he said, "Bud, you see that car? This man's brother gave it to him. But, Bud, one of these days, I'm going to be a brother just like that to you. One of these days, I promise you, I'm going to take you to a doctor that can make you walk. One of these days, I'm going to get you everything you could need in life because I'm going to be that kind of brother to you, Bud." Don't we all need to be a kind of brother like that? That we would give and help other people, just as Jesus Christ went to the cross and died and helped us. Thank you for being with me today. We look forward as we continue our study again tomorrow in Philippians and the great study, chapter 3. Thank you. Have a great day.